So we are the UndocuSpartan Resource Center. So San Jose State University is home to a diverse population of undocumented students, all of which have different identities, speak different languages, and are from different nationalities. Who are UndocuSpartans? So San Jose State University Spartans who are undocumented and who don't have an immigration status. That also includes individuals who have currently a DACA status, TPS, a U, or a T visa. And it is very important to remember that your immigration status does not determine your eligibility and acceptance to San Jose State University. So where we stand. So a message from our president, Mary A. Papazian. She says, ensuring access to a quality education is neither a partisan nor a political issue. It is our mission. And then from the Chancellor, Timothy P. White, he says, our mission to provide excellent education opportunities to all Californians shall not waver. So about the UndocuSpartan Student Resource Center. So one-on-one, persona and academic support is what we offer. We also offer free immigration legal support services for students and their direct family. There's DACA fee assistance. So if you need help paying for your DACA, we also offer assistance for that. And then workshops and resources that speak to the undocumented students experience. So that is academics and educational opportunities, life after college, employment and graduate school, financial aid and scholarships, immigration policy updates, know your rights, wellness and community building, student empowerment and advocacy, and immigration and intersectional identities. So for incoming students, if you are interested in participating in the UndocuSpartan Virtual Summer Academy, here is the link where you can register to be part of that. And so the date for when the application opens is July 12th, and it'll be all the way till the 21st. And we will leave this information, the link to this in the chat. So for today's presentation, we will go over privacy information and sharing. We will be going over making college affordable, establishing in-state tuition, financial aid and paying for college, develop a budget plan, resources, and the UndocuSpartan Summer Academy. And I'm going to give it to Anna.
Thank you so much, Jorge, for that. So welcome, everyone. My name is Ana Navarrete. I am the program director of the UndocuSpartan Student Resource Center here at San Jose State University. I'm really excited to meet you all. But first of all, congratulations. Congratulations in being accepted to San Jose State. I am sure you are going through a really rough time right now trying to decide what universities to choose from or where to go to. So we hope that the information that we provide today around the next steps for onboarding as an undocumented student can help you better understand what are the things that you need to do to be able to make college affordable and be able to access the resources that you need in order to be able to succeed at San Jose State. Some of this information is very broad in general and can apply to other universities. So I hope that this will be somewhat helpful for all of you, but I welcome questions from our audience. You can also reach out to us, but we will give you that contact information at the end of this presentation. But I want to start off, before we dive into what are all of these things that you have to do, I want to start off by talking about FERPA. So FERPA, for those who may not have heard, especially if you're an incoming freshman, maybe if you're a transfer student, you have already heard about this, but if you haven't, this is a moment for you to write this down. So Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. FERPA essentially is a federal law that protects your privacy as a student. That means all of your records, anything that has to do with, your identifiable information, such as your name, demographic information, your address, your grades, student records, and for our communities, more importantly, your immigration status. All of that information is protected by law here at San Jose State and any university that you go to. Make sure that as you're answering questions and you're getting information about what you need to submit, that you get also more information about FERPA and how the universities can cover, can protect your rights. But I wanted to highlight this because I think it's very important for us to be aware, because you're going to be encountering paperwork that's already asking you about your immigration status and your parents' status. So we want to reassure you that your information and that of your parents will be protected in this process and at any point moving forward. So with FERPA, your information, like I said, stays in-house. So if we ever need to share it, it can only be shared for educational purposes, and it would only be shared with your permission. For example, with our center, if we ever need to share information with a specific office, such as financial aid or maybe our legal services, we will only do that with your permission and your consent. And so, so keep that in mind as you're navigating the process moving forward. Even with parents, sign a release to authorize information for them. So if you have, say, for example, your parent, right? They're very invested in your education. They want to talk to your teachers, or they want to talk to your counselors. As educators, we can only provide them with general information. Anything specific to your case, you would have to grant us permission. And so it's important to keep that in mind as you're having those conversations with your parents or your family members about how they can support you, and also respecting, those boundaries of privacy that we now uphold as you're entering college. So if you have any questions, feel free to check out our website and you'll get more information on FERPA. All right, so now let's talk about making college affordable and what are the things that you need as an undocumented student to be able to afford college. As Jorge mentioned earlier in the presentation, San Jose State doesn't look at your immigration status to determine if you're eligible as a student. But what we do look at is how long have you lived in California and studied in California for us to be able to determine whether or not you pay in-state tuition. In the state of California, there are laws, for example, AB 540, AB 2000, or SB 68, that protect undocumented students' right to access in-state tuition in a California public institution. So for many students who are incoming, you might have heard of the term AB 540 affidavit. This is essentially what that is, the non-resident tuition exemption form. There is no deadline for the tuition exemption form, but you do have to submit it as soon as possible, just because it is tied into financial aid. So with this form, as you're filling it out, we encourage students to check in with us if you do have any questions or you're having any issues into proving how to fill out the form, and we'll dive a little bit more into that application in the upcoming slides. Folks who can qualify for AB 540, AB 2000, or SB 68 are U.S. citizens, permanent residents, but definitely undocumented students, especially those, including those with DACA, TPS, T, and U visas. But anyone who's undocumented, regardless of whether or not you have work authorization, can apply for AB 540, AB 2000, or SB 68. Another route to make college affordable to be able to pay in-state tuition is applying for California residency. So this is different from federal residency, and this is different from AB 540 or the non-resident tuition exemption. So with California residency, what this means is that you're trying to establish that you have lived in California with legal standing for over 1 year and 1 day. Unfortunately, that route, even though it does provide in-state tuition, it doesn't grant financial aid to students who are undocumented. And I'll go a little bit more into it in the next couple of slides. But we just wanted to highlight 2 ways that students who are undocumented can qualify for in-state tuition. So let's focus now on the California non-resident tuition exemption form, because that's such an important form and such an important route for undocumented students to be able to qualify for in-state for financial aid. So for AB 540 and AB 2000 and SB 68, there are 2 sets of requirements you have to complete or demonstrate that you meet. The first one is that you have attended California institution of education, whether it's K through 12, high school, community college, adult school. And the second is California graduation requirements. So out of these requirements, you only need to be able to provide one of them in each section. And there are ways that you can demonstrate that by providing transcripts. So for folks who are, for folks who don't know whether or not this applies to them, we encourage them to check in with us. We can work, we can go through the policy and do like an initial assessment to see if this would be a good route for you. Of course, this assessment is done in consultation with the offices that oversee this process. So there are other folks on campus that you can reach out to get more information about your specific case. And I'll highlight a little bit about that in a bit. So in order to be able to demonstrate in-state tuition, eligibility through AB 540, AB 2000, or SB 68, you do have to submit transcripts. So for students who are transferring into the university, if you establish institution at your community college, you're going to have to do it all over again here. Unfortunately, any college or every institution that you attend, you have to fill out a new affidavit or a new tuition exemption form at every institution that you attend, but you only have to do that once. So at San Jose State, if you're trying to prove that you meet AB 540 requirements, make sure to also ask for your high school transcript. So if you haven't been in high school for a while, make sure to start reaching out to them now so they can send your official transcripts over to the university. The office that oversees this process is the Office of the Registrar, so you do have to send it over to them. The great thing is that you can do it online, and in this slide, you will find the contact information of the offices that will that process this information. So if you are currently in high school or you're currently in community college, your current institutions should be sending your transcripts, your official transcripts, once you have completed your classes, and that can be sent over to eTranscript@sjsu.edu. We also have the Office of the Registrar. So again, for those who are submitting the California non-resident tuition exemption, make sure you send it into records-regist@sjsu.edu. The person in the Office of the Registrar that oversees its California non-resident tuition exemption and the residency process for undergraduates is Sophie Lan, whose information and email you'll find in this slide as well. So here's an example of the California non-resident tuition. If you're on your laptop, you can use the QR found on this slide and just put your phone over it and you'll be able to pull up the form. In that form, you will also find an FAQ of questions that students typically have about the application and how to demonstrate that they meet the requirements. Again, and I'm going to show it real quick, but if students have any question about how to fill it out, if you're concerned about if you're filling it out incorrectly, feel free to reach out to us and we can walk you through the form. But essentially, if you are a current transfer student and you already have your high school transcripts, you can start submitting it now, given that, if you meet the AB 540 criteria. But if you are a high school student and you're trying to meet AB 540, you're going to have to wait until your final grades are submitted for your high school, your last year in high school. That will be submitted automatically, or hopefully automatically, to the Office of the Registrar, but make sure that you follow up with your counselor or or the appropriate office to make sure that that information gets sent over. For students who are trying to meet SB 68 requirements, remember that also means that you're probably going to be reaching out to your adult school, community college. If you need to reach out to your previous K through 12 institutions, make sure that you're doing that outreach now. Like I mentioned earlier, there's no deadline specifically for the California non-resident tuition, but you want to make sure that it gets applied the first term that you start your semester, because if you don't apply it right away, you're going to be charged out-of-state fees. And so I'll highlight a little bit about what that looks like if this doesn't get processed. Okay, so I had talked a little bit earlier about California residency. So again, just to highlight the differences between California residency and the non-resident tuition exemption form, is that California residency requires that the student or the parent of the minor, anyone under 19, has had a physical presence in California with legal status. That means, for example, if you've lived in California for 1 year and 1 day with DACA, that means that you can be classified as a California resident. The non-resident tuition exemption form, what it does, it just gives you a fee waiver, meaning that it will take away the out-of-state fees that typically a non-California resident has to pay for in-state tuition purposes. The non-resident tuition exemption form does not grant California residency, so it should not be confused with that. And oftentimes the question that I get from students is that, well, if I have DACA and I've lived here for 1 year, 1 day, should I just get California residency? Honestly, it's really up to you, but from a resource perspective, by not qualifying for AB 540, if you do qualify for that, by not tapping into that, you would probably also miss out on financial aid opportunities, such as the California DREAM Act, just because that's tied into AB 540, AB 2000, and SB 68. So California residency is really kind of a last case stop for students who don't qualify for AB 540, but yet are able to demonstrate that they have legal standing in California for 1 year and 1 day, even though they didn't attend a California high school or a community college. And so if this is your situation and you want to talk a little bit more about, what are your options? Again, you can reach out to us and, we can take a look at those options and connect you to the right folks. Okay, so unfortunately, it does happen where students do get denied AB 540 residency through the non-resident tuition exemption, but there is a way that students can appeal it. So if you have applied for AB 540 or the non-resident tuition exemption and you were denied, but you feel that that decision was made incorrectly, there are ways that you can push back and be able to make a case and prove that you do meet the requirements. There is no specific process for the affidavit, but you can still submit a letter of appeal to the chancellor's office so they can review it and make a final decision on your case. Again, our services are here for our students, in case that you do need someone to talk to about, what does this mean? And if you need help putting together an appeal packet, we can support you with that and help you, and advocate for you if we feel like there is a strong case in your situation. So feel free to reach out to us in this question. Next slide. All right. So in this next couple of slides, we're going to talk a little bit about financial aid and paying for college, right? So we talked about AB 540, we talked about California residency, which is really, really important for you to be able to pay in-state tuition fees. But now let's talk about financial aid and what does that mean? So in the state of California, again, there is financial aid available to students based on their immigration status or their residency classification. So for students who are considered California residents who are undocumented, unfortunately, there's no state or university aid, but there are scholarships and internal and external that they might be able to qualify for to help cover their cost of tuition and the cost of college. For AB 540 students, AB 2000 or SB 68 students who fall under that category get to benefit from state and university aid, school scholarships, and external scholarships as well. For students who are non-in-state, meaning that they don't qualify for in-state tuition, but are still undocumented, unfortunately, state and university aid is unavailable. Internal university scholarships may be limited. There are some departments that might be looking at students' academics as opposed to their immigration status. So there might be some opportunities available on campus. In terms of external scholarships, there are many scholarships open to students regardless of their immigration status. And so it's just a matter of looking for those opportunities. And so in here, you will notice that we did not include international because when it comes to undocumented students technically are not international, by definition of our institution. International students tend to be students who come in with a student visa, not necessarily someone who's undocumented. So if you find yourself being classified as an international student, even though you lived in California for many, many years, it might be a matter of communicating with the registrar to make sure that they put you in the right category. It tends to be that in your admissions application, when you fill it out, it will classify you in terms of immigration status based on the information that you shared. So there could be some misclassifications. So again, if that is your case where you're being classified as international, make sure that you communicate with the office of the registrar and let them know that you are not international and that you're either AB 540 or if you qualify for California residency, or if you don't qualify for any of those opportunities, make sure that you clarify that with them. Again, if you want to check in with someone beforehand or want to consult, we're here for that as well. So the California Dream Act. So by now, all of you should have filled out the California Dream Act. If you haven't, please fill it out. So the California Dream Act is a state financial aid program that is awarded to students who qualify for the California non-resident tuition exemption form. So AB 540, AB 2000, and SB 68. I'll continue to say this throughout the presentation. So that includes students who are undocumented with no social security number and students with DACA, TPS, T, or U visas. Because it's a state program and it's only based on the non-resident tuition exemption, DACA doesn't matter to the program. So if you don't have it, that's okay. It's not a determinant, it doesn't determine whether or not you qualify for financial aid. In terms of the type of aids that you're able to obtain through the California DREAM Act, it includes Cal grants, middle class scholarships, state university grants. If you are part of EOP already, EOP grants as well. It also opens up opportunity for CSU scholarships and the California DREAM Loan. We encourage students to apply to the California DREAM Act, even if you don't know that you qualify. And one of the questions here that we have on our audience is that what's the difference between the Cal grant and the state university grant? So it's essentially two different pots of money that the university taps into, or that financial aid taps into, to determine what aid are you going to get. So you either get the Cal grant A or the state university grant. And I'll show you an example of what that looks like in a couple of slides. But it's just a different pot of money. The Cal grant is really tied into the March 2nd deadline and how much aid is left. But if the Cal grant runs out, usually the state university grant will step in and fill in that gap. And so if you miss the March 2nd deadline for financial aid for the California DREAM Act, more than likely you missed out on the Cal grant, but it doesn't mean that there's no state university grant available. And so make sure that to submit your application, because there's different pots of money that could become available to you. Okay. Hopefully that answered it. All right. Okay. Thank you. And so so again, talking about like, what if I submitted my California DREAM Act, but you have no financial aid packet? So some students might have already seen something on their California DREAM Act portal, whether it's the Cal Grant portal or their financial, or their my.sjsu.edu portal. So if you haven't seen it, there could be a few reasons why you haven't seen your financial aid offer yet. One, there could be a mistake within the application, meaning that the application hasn't been sent over to San Jose State because there's a mistake that has taken place. Some of the typical or the common mistakes that we see is that for example, name variations across the different application, the different forms that you submit. Household information, income information, maybe not listing San Jose State as one of your colleges. Maybe you're missing a signature. And even if you did get your aid, right? Even if you did get packaged, you do have to make sure that you also get your non-resident tuition exemption form submitted and approved. That could be another reason why your financial aid doesn't get released. And so make sure that you take a look at your California DREAM Act application, make sure that there's no errors. If there are any errors and you don't know how to fix them, or they keep on popping up, I highly encourage you to reach out to the California Student Aid Commission. They do have a hotline. This is the office that oversees the California DREAM Act application, and they can help you troubleshoot some of those questions and remove any barriers that you're dealing with. Once the application gets fixed, it will then be sent over to San Jose State, and that's where you can now work directly with our financial aid office to get more information specifically on your financial aid packet. But until California Student Aid Commission sends your application over to San Jose State, then we won't know what's happening with your aid. So we wanted to highlight those phone numbers for you, and the website and the resources that are available to you, just so you can start troubleshooting some of those concerns, because I know it tends to be very nerve-wracking when you don't see how much aid you're going to get. Okay. All right. So now for this next section, I want to pass this over to Eder, who would talk a little bit about identifying your financial gap and the resources that you can tap into. So Eder, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, thank you, Anna. And also there was a question on the chat that is a little more longer, so we're going to answer that towards the end. Yeah, cool. So by now, if you haven't accepted to San Jose State, you probably receive a student ID. We'd also link to you for you to log into your student portal, right? Now, that might be confusing, of course, because that's what it is. Now, I'm just going to do this, and please, this is just an example. Each one of you is going to have your own version of your portal with different scholarships or grants. So let's just take a look at example number 1. So this is a situation where, for example, you have completed the California Dream Act, and then of course, because you did this before the deadline on March 2nd, the state or well, the California Dream Act, right, is giving you financial assistance, right? So you're gonna see, well, you should be able to see the names of the different types of aid that you're getting into your account. So for example, always pay attention to the name of the grant or the scholarship that you're getting. In this case, if you go to the first line, it's gonna be the Cal Grant B, right? Which is a grant. It's not a loan, it's a grant. Grant is money that you get for free and you don't have to pay it back. Now, they're offering you, I'm kind of blind, so sorry, 1,672, right? So it goes the same way. Cal Grant, another Cal Grant, what category is, right? The amount that they're giving you. And at the same time, right, the third option here is a donor. So that means that someone is giving you extra money. And this is, of course, a scholarship, right? Again, scholarships might depend, most of them are free money that you don't have to pay back. Some scholarships might ask you to volunteer your time, but that will be communicated through you eventually, right? If they don't tell you anything, that is just money that they're giving you for free. So anyway, right? The column that says offer, they're telling you, okay, every scholarship or Cal Grant is giving you this amount, which amounts to a total of 9,000, wow, I'm blind, 9,881, right? So when you're in your student portal, right, make sure that you have a clear understanding of what there are, how much money there is, and you need to physically accept them. If you don't accept them, then that grant or scholarship is not going to cover any tuition fees. Now, how do I say this? Take your time in doing this and don't rush it. Now, if we go below, right, and that will be just for the whole year, the entire academic year. Now, if you want to break it down by semester, and you guys should be able to see this by now, or potentially in the next months to say that. If you look at spring 2019, again, as I said before, they're gonna tell you what aid you're being offered, the type, and the amount. So that amount there, what is being offered and when you have to accept, it's only for the spring of 2019. And then we have another example below that, right? What they're giving you, what they're offering you, right? And also the scholarship, that will be only for the fall of 2018. So an example one, the first box is for the whole year. Below the example one, right, you have by term, fall and spring, spring and fall, right? Whichever comes first. Now, if we take example two, right, that is a very short box, which means that you're not being offered too many things, right? It means that you're just getting a grant, which is $5,742, which you need to accept. So as you can tell, example one or two are two potential, I don't want to say outcomes, but potential state A that you're being offered. Again, this is just an example and it's not generalizable. It's going to depend of your income tax and also need to say that. And as we said before, and below, right, it's going to break it down. Below the first box of example two is going to tell you, this is what you're being awarded for the spring 2020, and this is what you're being awarded for fall 19. Kind of cuts it in half to say that. These numbers look funny, and let me explain why. As Anna said before, when you complete the AB 540 form, right, which grants you just a state tuition for the California college, the CSU system, is only for that purpose and nothing else, right? If you were to just go, let's say, part-time, and that happens, part-time for the purposes of San Jose State is any student that is taking 6.1 units or less. Make it that clear, 6.1 units or less. You're considered part-time. And you will be paying $5,440, right? Now, full-time is anything beyond 6.1, which is very clear, right? And in that case, you'll be paying $7,852. Now, this is for the whole year. Let's put an example. Fall 21 and spring 22. Wow, year goes so fast. Anyway, now if you want to consider that, what you might call, by breaking down, right, to break it down by term. So that means that if you want to go in the fall part-time, right? Again, 6.1 units, right? That's pretty much there. You'll be paying $2,720. But if you're going full-time, right, your amount goes to like 4,000. So the first box is just explaining to you state tuition. This is what happens when you are part-time or full-time. Give you the numbers and the units that each accords, right? Now, if you were, for example, if you were not able to submit the AB 540 form, right? Or if you did not qualify for California residency, you're gonna pay as an out-of-state student. And the prices below, right? It tells you, it works again, 12 units, 6 units, full-time, part-time, right? As an out-of-state full-time student, you'll be paying 7,852, close to 8,000, right? And that will be just, well, it's expensive, right? Not to mention that you'll be paying an additional fees. So at the end, you'll be paying for one semester. I mean, yeah, for one semester to say that, right? $12,604. So again, the box below is just telling you what would happen, right? What will be your cost of tuition if you were to be classified as an out-of-state student for 1 year or one semester. For being full-time or part-time. Now, what does that mean, right? Okay, let's break that down. In the blue box, the blue box, right? The blue one that says, if you were to qualify for the AB 540 exempt tuition form, right? So the California Dream Act is giving you $5,742. That's what they're giving you as a financial aid assistance. Great, right? Your tuition is $7,852. That means that you will have to pay to the university, right? After you get assistance from the California Dream Act, $2,000, right? Now, the other one is that will be for the entire year. The orange box is just now breaking it down by semester. The California Dream Act will give you $2,000, 871, right, for one semester. Tuition for that semester is like $4,000, right? That means that you will owe to the university only $1,000, $55, right? Now, you have to understand one thing. This is just tuition. This doesn't include housing. This doesn't include your food or transportation or anything like that. So just to be clear, that even when you have assistance from the California Dream Act, there might be a gap in between, what you have to pay for tuition when you receive. Now, that gap, right? That is in some cases, right? Again, this is just gonna be based on each one of you filling, the California Dream Act, the income tax, and everything else. So it's gonna be unique to each one of you. Now, San Jose State does want to help their student population, and of course, right? One of the first things that many colleges have is food pantries, free food. Just come with your student ID, right? And the hours are gonna be located on the website. And that's one service that you don't get, that's part of your tuition fees, right? They're trying to give us free food, and that's great. And then if you qualify for CalFresh, you can also do it there on the site. Now, at the same time, SSU Cares is more like providing psychological services and therapeutical services because mental health is important and we're paying for those fees. Now, in addition to the previous that I said, you need to consider that we also offer a student, Associated Students, the Associated Student Association, right? They created a program, a textbook program to say that. We just need to complete a form and also list your classes. Oh yes, thank you for the reminder. SDU Cares also provides emergency funding, like they provided last year for all their students. In addition to having a book loan program, right? We also have Smart Pass Clipper card, which means free transportation. And also this applies to taking the 17 if you were to live in Santa Cruz, right? And getting cheap tickets because that thing keeps going up and up every year. Now, if you're a student and you apply to the EOP also does give you some financial assistance, some grant, and you will be seeing that in your financial aid, portal, right? In your student portal. And also there are other resources on campus, right? That will support first generation college students. Now, we also have a, in addition to the resources that San Jose State provides, we also encourage our students to look for other scholarships, right, and other resources out there. So in some of these places, you probably heard of MALDEF, which is just a big organization that has scholarships for Latino immigrant students. And you need to look, of course, by gender, school, location, and you name it. If you look also into the Dream US, it's a scholarship that provides assistance for tuition up to $25,000, right, for students who are going to achieve or complete a bachelor's degree. Within the Bay Area, right? and this, if you're not from the Bay Area, that's fine. We have this organization called Immigrants Rising, which is a huge organization that supports the advancements of undocumented students and immigrant students, and they also have a list of scholarships that you can potentially qualify. We also encourage our students to check My Undocumented Student Life, which is a website that really many undocumented students from different fields, right, are really putting their stories and putting resources together to just connect with each other and see how other students are navigating the system. Now, another organization, right, if you're not familiar with the Bay Area, the Silicon Valley Foundation, they also have a what you might call over 34 scholarship programs. You just have to go in there and look for the programs that you might qualify. And again, this is divided by major, gender, high school. It goes on like that. We also encourage our students, right, to look at the Ernesto Galarza Scholarship within San Jose State. And we also encourage you to go to the financial aid office online, right, and the scholarship office, because San Jose State also has their own scholarship. They have their own database of scholarships, right, that students can apply. And in many cases, they're going to ask you for a GPA or a letter of recommendation, right, or a particular major. The deadline for these scholarships, of course, is May 15. As I said before, the deadline is in May 15, right, coming up soon. Now, as I said before, scholarships are going to depend on what they want to know from you. In some cases, they want to see that, well, how do I say this, right? They're going to look at your community service, right? They might want to look at you specifically if you're a first generation college student. They want to know sometimes, write an essay where you explain, what are your financial circumstances, right, that you're applying for the scholarship. Other ones are going to be like, please narrate to us, like, how is that you've overcome certain obstacles, right? So between merit and need-based scholarships, they're going to have scholarships also for students who are playing sports, as well as scholarships for students with learning disabilities. Again, we have a lot of scholarships, but it's up to you guys to research each one and just filter by, whatever they ask, your major or your year, a GPA, again. And that's the link for you guys to look it up.
So this is our contact information. We are available between now and the summer and the beginning of fall semester to meet with students one-on-one. I do want to highlight that the best phone number to reach, at least reach me at, is going to be the USRC general phone line, which is 924-2762. So make sure that you're dialing that number and not the second one, because I don't have access to that one at the moment. So make sure to, again, reach out to us, 408-924-2762 if you want to talk to someone over the phone. But if you'd like to schedule a time to meet, feel free to email us directly and we'll share with you our Google Calendar so you can schedule an appointment with us. On here, we wanted to highlight some of the key offices more than likely that you will be interacting with throughout your process. If you decide to come to San Jose State, we want to make sure that you are connected with the right people and the right offices, and you know what are the answers that they're able to answer. And so feel free to take a screenshot of this. Again, we're going to be posting this recording. We will also be following up with folks who registered to give them the slides and the presentation. But make sure that you're reaching out. If you're having trouble communicating with an office, or maybe you're running into some sort of situation with any of the onboarding processes, feel free to reach out to us. But you have incredible allies across our campus that are here to support you. And so earlier I know Jorge talked a little bit about where we stand as a campus, and our beliefs as a CSU system and as a university in supporting all of our students regardless of immigration status. We really do mean it when we say we have allies across the board here on our campus. And so even our allies, if they may not be able to answer the questions that you may have, they certainly know who to refer you to. So feel free to ask us any questions as you're interacting with our different offices on campus. Again, if you need help just figuring out how to navigate them, or how to navigate some of the concerns that you have, or just want some sort of reassurance, right, that you're not outing yourself too much, that's what we're here for. On here, we wanted to highlight some of the resources and tools and websites that you can go into to access information around higher ed and education. And immigration. In particularly, Immigrants Rising has some, And then I mentioned some really great scholarships or a list of scholarships for students who are undocumented, regardless of DACA eligibility, or even regardless of AB 540 eligibility. So make sure that you apply for those scholarships and, carve 2 or 3 hours out of your week just dedicated to applying to these opportunities. We hope that the information that you received here today, or, the examples of what a financial aid packet looks like, or how much tuition and fees cost, was helpful to understand what it will take to be able to meet the cost of tuition and fees. But I don't want you to feel discouraged. I know some of these numbers are very big and may seem very unrealistic because, again, like coming from, me myself being first generation, coming from an immigrant background, being undocumented myself, I can totally understand how overwhelming this process can be, especially as you're looking up the numbers and you're trying to figure out what does that mean for me. So make sure to communicate with us, check in with us. We're here to really walk you through that process and helping you understand what are the opportunities that you have available, and what are the things that you should be tapping into as we start off right now, because this is going to be a gap that you're going to be facing every term that you attend a school, right? Unless you have a full ride scholarship, or you're able to receive that financial support in other ways, then more than likely you're going to have to figure out how do you come up with that money. But again, the resources are there, the opportunities are there. It's just a matter of tapping into them and accessing them. But so don't ever let your immigration status discourage you from seeking these opportunities and for wanting to access financial resources to help you cover your first year in college. And so think about it. Think about, what do you need right now to make it through your first year? And once you decide to come to San Jose State during your first year, is then expanding all of your network and really looking at what are other opportunities that you can tap into to continue your education, knowing that you don't have to worry about money and that you'll have an opportunity to engage with our different campus centers and the different work that, or the different things that happen on our campus, because we know that our students are very diverse and the things that you're interested in, we want to make sure that you're all over the place. We want to make sure that we can have undocumented students participating in STEM, participating in the humanities, and just being scholars at the end of the day. And so reach out to us if you have any questions, if you want to get connected to opportunities, or if you want to know like what are the organizations or programs that should be following. That's what we're here for. And so thank you, Edith. Edith and Jorge put down their information. I'll write down my email again in the chat, but feel free to reach out to us. Our social media is one of the best places where you can engage with us, because we're constantly live on there. And if you're coming in the fall, again, the Summer Academy would be a really good opportunity for folks to participate in a 5 days of programming where you will interact with other students and go and participate in programming and workshops that address issues around immigration and higher ed. So that Summer Academy is going to be taking place between July 12th and July 21st. It's going to be over a course of 5 days. So if you're interested in participating and getting more information, sign up, fill out our intake, give us your contact information, and we'll follow up with you as soon as the application opens up later this month or early in May. All right.